I found out that my daughter's teacher got her pregnant, and because of his family connections, I couldn't even report him. So I resorted to extremes to get my way. When my daughter was 13, she suddenly became extremely excited about going to school. This was the same girl who 2 weeks ago tried to play dead to skip class. So naturally I asked her why the change. Oh, I now have Mr. Davidson for history every day. His class is super fun. I smiled, glad she was finally not hating school. I didn't think much about it again until a week later, when Emma started setting her alarm 30 minutes earlier just to pick out the perfect cutsy outfit. It's not like Emma never cared about her appearance, but she was always fine with just throwing the first clean thing on. I remember asking her if she was trying to impress a boy she had a crush on, and her face went totally red. "Don't say that, Mom," she yelled. That's when I got truly suspicious. I started looking at her normal teenage mood swings more carefully, and I realized they were always related to Mr. Davidson. She'd never admit it, but I noticed things like if Mr. Davidson complimented her project, she'd float around the house for hours. But if Mr. Davidson didn't acknowledge her much that day, she'd barely speak and pick at her plate during dinner. That's when I tested her in a subtle manner. "I was thinking of moving you out of Mr. Davidson's class. I think it would be good to—" "You can't do that," she yelled before I could even get my words out. I stared at her blankly. "But why not?" I asked. Silence. Deafening silence. She didn't say a word, just stood up and beelined straight for her room, pulling up her phone to text someone before she even reached the stairs. By now I was extremely worried. This was Emma, my girl who just 2 months ago didn't care about a single school-related thing. She was always extremely open about everything too, so this was a huge problem. That night, I crept into her room and searched through her phone. I know this was a huge violation of privacy, but I truly felt like I had no choice. I had a gut feeling she was in danger. I combed through every messaging app I could find, looking for anything at all related to Mr. Davidson, and that's when I found it. An email thread on a backup email she had made seemingly specifically for communicating with him. The last email from him read, "Can't wait to see you during my free period tomorrow." My hand started shaking as I opened the thread, and what I read made me want to throw up. Mr. Davidson was telling my 13-year-old daughter that she was mature for her age and special, and that their connection transcended normal student-teacher relationships. He sent her photos of gifts he'd give to her, and she'd tell him she was hiding them in her bag. I quietly went through her bag as soon as I read it, and that's when I saw it. Expensive professional makeup, mature outfits, stockings, all as gifts from Mr. Davidson. I wanted to puke. What do you even do when you realize your daughter is being groomed? The first thing I did was take pictures of everything with my own phone while trying not to scream. My first instinct was to tell the school, tell the police, tell someone, but I knew I couldn't. Because Mr. Davidson wasn't just any regular teacher. Mr. Davidson's parents donated a lot to the school. His brother was the police chief who'd just spoken at our PTA meeting about protecting children. His wife was on the school board. If I went to the authorities, they likely wouldn't take me seriously, maybe even destroy me. And so, I did the only thing I could think of. I started documenting everything while pretending everything was normal. I began volunteering at school without Emma knowing and watched how he interacted with her. I took photos of the gifts and backed up the emails to different clouds. I started watching documentaries with Emma about consent and talking about news stories where teachers hurt students. I could see the hamster wheel in her head turning as we watched these. She'd often excuse herself midway through, fidget nervously, bite her fingernails. She was finally realizing the truth of what was happening. Unfortunately, this progress was cut short by what is now the worst day of my life, Tuesday. Emma came home from school early saying she felt sick. She bolted for the bathroom and stayed there for over an hour. I heard her sobbing uncontrollably. I finally managed to convince her to unlock the door, where I found her curled up on the floor shaking. I picked her up and held her, fearing the worst, and between gasps she said it. "He said if I loved him I would." I thought I was ready, but it hurt and he wouldn't stop. That's when she pulled away and scrambled for the cabinet under the sink. With trembling hands, she pulled out a pregnancy test. I watched in frozen horror as she held it up, showing 2 pink lines. I couldn't breathe. My 13-year-old daughter was holding a positive pregnancy test, and the man responsible was her teacher. The same teacher whose brother ran our police department. The same teacher whose wife sat on the school board making decisions about our children's safety. I grabbed Emma and held her tight while she sobbed into my shoulder. Her whole body shook with each breath. I needed to get her to a doctor immediately, but I also needed to be smart about this. One wrong move and Davidson's connections would bury us. "Baby, we need to go to urgent care," I whispered, stroking her hair. "I'm going to tell them you have severe stomach pain, okay? Just follow my lead." Emma nodded weakly against my chest. I helped her to the car, my mind racing through everything I needed to do. The evidence on her phone, the gifts in her bag, the pregnancy test. I grabbed everything and shoved it into my purse. No way was I leaving anything behind that could disappear. At urgent care, I filled out the paperwork with shaking hands while Emma curled up in the waiting room chair. When they called us back, I told the nurse about sudden severe abdominal pain and nausea. The nurse took Emma's vitals and left us alone in the exam room. "Mom, what if they tell?" Emma whispered, fresh tears streaming down her face. "Let me handle it, sweetheart. Just tell the doctor your stomach hurts really bad." Dr. Martinez entered 10 minutes later. She was young, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. After examining Emma and running some tests, she pulled me aside while a nurse stayed with my daughter. "Mrs. Thompson, the pregnancy test came back positive," she said quietly. "Given Emma's age, I'm required to file a report with—" "Please," I interrupted, my voice cracking. "Can you give me 24 hours? Just one day to process this shock and figure out how to protect my daughter? The man who did this, his brother is the police chief. His wife is on the school board. If you report this now, they'll make it disappear." Dr. Martinez studied my face for a long moment. 24 hours. "But I need you to understand, I will be filing that report. Document everything you can in the meantime." Back home, Emma went straight to bed, exhausted from crying. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, creating encrypted folders and backing up every piece of evidence to multiple cloud services. Then I remembered something from a true crime podcast, recording apps disguised as other programs. I crept into Emma's room while she slept and installed one on her phone, hidden inside what looked like a calculator app. If Davidson tried to contact her or corner her at school, I'd have proof. The next morning, Emma refused to get out of bed. "I can't see him, Mom. I can't sit in his class and pretend everything's normal." "You don't have to go today," I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "I'll call you in sick." But skipping his class triggered something in Davidson. By noon, Emma's phone was buzzing nonstop. I watched the messages roll in on the monitoring app I'd installed. They came from a number I didn't recognize, clearly a burner phone. "Where are you today? I'm worried about you. Emma, please respond. You know how much I care. Your grade is suffering. You can't afford to miss my class. Don't do something you'll regret. Remember what we talked about." The messages shifted from concerned to threatening over the course of hours. I screenshotted everything, my stomach churning with each notification. Emma stayed in her room, covers pulled over her head, trying to block it all out. That evening, I made a decision. "I'm taking time off work," I told Emma over dinner she barely touched. "Family emergency, and I'm going to start volunteering at school." "Mom, no," Emma pleaded. "He'll know something's wrong." He'll what?" I asked gently. "Sweetheart, what is he threatening you with?" Emma pushed her food around her plate. "My grades, my future. He says I need his recommendation for high school honors programs, that he can make or break my academic career." The manipulation made made me sick. He'd found exactly what mattered to my straight A daughter and weaponized it against her. I started volunteering in the main office the next day, filing papers and answering phones. It gave me the perfect vantage point to watch the hallways. During third period, Davidson's free period, I saw him texting furiously on his phone. Minutes later, Emma appeared in the hallway, walking slowly toward the music wing. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding. Davidson met her by the empty orchestra room, glancing around before ushering her inside. I positioned myself where I could see through the door's window. He was showing her something on his phone, gesturing emphatically. Emma stood with her arms wrapped around herself, nodding mechanically at whatever he said. When she emerged 10 minutes later, her face was pale and drawn. I ducked into a supply closet before Davidson could spot me, but I'd seen enough. He was still trying to control her, even now. That night, Emma's best friend Mia called the house phone, something the girls never did anymore. Mrs. Thompson, can I talk to you about Emma? She's scaring me. My heart jumped. What do you mean, sweetie? She won't tell me what's wrong, but she's different. She cries in the bathroom between classes, and Mr. Davidson keeps calling her to his desk during history. Last week, I saw him put his hand on her shoulder and she just froze. Mia, would you and your mom be willing to come over tomorrow? I think we need to talk. Jessica arrived the next afternoon with Mia while Emma was at a doctor's appointment I'd scheduled. I showed them some of the evidence. Not everything, but enough. Jessica's face went white. Oh my god, she breathed. He's been giving Mia special attention too, asking her to stay after class, commenting on her outfits. I thought he was just being friendly. Did he ever? I couldn't finish the question. No, Jessica said firmly, but only because Mia always made excuses to leave. She said he made her uncomfortable but couldn't explain why. We agreed to work together. Jessica would document anything Mia witnessed, and we'd coordinate our evidence. Two families were harder to silence than one, but Davidson must have sensed the walls closing in. That evening, our doorbell rang at 8:30. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table when I answered the door to find Davidson himself standing on our porch, holding a folder. Mrs. Thompson, he said with a practiced smile. Emma left an important assignment at school. I thought I'd drop it by since it's worth a significant portion of her grade. Thank you, but you can leave it with me, I said, not moving from the doorway. His smile faltered. I'd really like to explain the assignment to Emma directly. It's quite complex. That won't be necessary. We stared at each other for a long moment. His mask slipped just enough for me to see the calculation in his eyes. Then he handed me the folder. Of course, please make sure Emma understands the importance of completing all her work. Her future depends on maintaining her excellent academic record. The threat was clear. After he left, I found a note tucked inside the folder. Emma's college recommendations depend on her continued excellence in all areas. Some mistakes can't be undone. Emma read it and burst into tears. See, I told you. He's going to ruin everything. You're making it worse. Baby, he's the one who— I knew what I was doing, she screamed. I'm not a little kid, and now you're destroying my whole future. She ran to her room and slammed the door. I stood in the hallway shaking. He'd manipulated her so completely that she believed she was complicit, that she was equally responsible. The recording app showed she'd already texted him an apology for my behavior. I stared at my phone screen, watching Emma's apology text to Davidson appear in the monitoring app. My hands trembled as I read his immediate response. Your mother doesn't understand us. Meet me tomorrow morning before school. We need to discuss your future. Emma's reply came within seconds. Okay, I couldn't let this happen. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and positioned myself in the kitchen where I could see Emma's movements. At 6:30, she crept downstairs, fully dressed in one of the outfits Davidson had bought her. I pretended to be making coffee. You're up early, I said casually. She froze. Just wanted to get to school early, work on a project. I'll drive you. No, the panic in her voice confirmed my suspicions. I mean, I'm fine walking. It's too early and too dark. I'm driving you. The car ride was silent. Emma stared out the window, her leg bouncing nervously. When we pulled up to school, I saw Davidson's car already in the parking lot. Emma practically jumped out before I'd fully stopped. Emma, wait, but she was already hurrying toward the building. I parked and followed, volunteering badge ready. The halls were mostly empty this early. I heard voices from Davidson's classroom and positioned myself outside, pretending to organize papers from my volunteer folder. Through the cracked door, I heard Davidson's voice, low and urgent. Your mother is becoming a problem. If she keeps interfering, I'll have no choice but to fail you this semester. You know what that means for your transcript. I know, Emma whispered. I'm sorry. I'll talk to her. Talk isn't enough anymore. I need you to delete our emails. All of them. Today. My phone buzzed. The recording app was capturing everything. I forced myself to walk away before Davidson discovered me. In the main office, I busied myself with filing while my mind raced. He was escalating, trying to destroy evidence. That afternoon, I watched Emma during lunch through the cafeteria windows. She sat alone, picking at her food. Mia approached several times, but Emma waved her away. The isolation tactic. Classic predator behavior. I'd seen it in every documentary we'd watched together. When Emma came home, she went straight to her laptop. Through the monitoring software I'd installed weeks ago, I watched her access the secret email account. My heart sank as she began deleting messages. But what she didn't know was that I'd already backed up everything to multiple cloud services, including ones that preserved deleted content. How was school? I asked, entering her room. She slammed the laptop shut. Fine. Emma, we need to talk about— There's nothing to talk about. She stood up, clutching her laptop. You're ruining my life. Mr. Davidson is the only teacher who believes in me, and you're destroying that. He's manipulating you, sweetheart. What he's doing isn't normal or okay. You don't understand anything. She pushed past me, heading for the bathroom. I heard the lock click. 20 minutes later, she emerged, pale and shaky. The morning sickness was getting worse. I'd made another doctor's appointment for tomorrow, this time with an OBGYN who specialized in young patients. Dr. Martinez had recommended her, someone outside Davidson's sphere of influence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the recording app, watching for new messages. Around 2 a.m., one appeared from the burner number. You did well today. Remember? Our secret keeps you special. Delete this. Emma deleted it immediately, but I had the screenshot. The next morning, I told Emma we had a doctor's appointment. She protested, but I insisted. Dr. Hugelschatz was gentle and professional, confirming the pregnancy was approximately 6 weeks along. She discussed options carefully, emphasizing that Emma had choices and time to decide. Emma sat silent through it all, arms wrapped around her middle. In the parking lot afterward, Emma finally spoke. He said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I never got into honors programs. He said he'd tell everyone I seduced him, that I threw myself at him. I pulled her into a hug. None of this is your fault. None of it. But I did throw myself at him, she sobbed. I wore the outfits he bought. I met him during his free periods. I sent him pictures. You're 13. He's an adult in a position of power. This is on him, not you. We sat in the car for an hour while Emma cried. She told me about the gradual progression, how it started with compliments about her intelligence, then special attention, then gifts, then requests for photos just for him, then meetings in empty classrooms, how he told her she was mature enough to handle an adult relationship. That age was just a number when souls connected. I recorded it all on my phone, with Emma's permission. Evidence. Always evidence. When we got home, Jessica was waiting on our porch with Mia. We need to talk, she said urgently. Mia saw something today. Inside, Mia twisted her hands nervously. Mr. Davidson had another girl in his classroom during lunch, a 7th grader. He was giving giving her a gift box, just like the ones he used to give Emma. My blood ran cold. He was already grooming his next victim. Her name's Sarah, Mia continued. She's in my sister's grade. She's been bragging about how Mr. Davidson thinks she's special. Emma went rigid beside me. He said I was the only one, she whispered. Jessica and I exchanged glances. This was bigger than just Emma. How many girls had there been? How many would there be? We need to warn her parents, Jessica said. They won't believe us, I replied. Not without proof. And if Davidson finds out we're talking to other families, he's already suspicious, Emma said quietly. Today he asked me if I'd been talking to anyone about us. He said he has friends who tell him things. The next few days were a careful dance. I continued volunteering, watching Davidson's movements. Jessica documented everything Mia observed. Emma went to school, attended his class, and pretended everything was normal while the recording app captured every interaction. Then Thursday happened. I was filing papers in the main office when the principal's secretary asked me to deliver something to the music wing. As I walked down the empty hallway, I heard voices from the orchestra room. The door was slightly open. You're very special, Sarah. Not many students have your potential. I recognized Davidson's voice immediately. I peered through the crack and saw him sitting too close to a young girl on the piano bench, his hand on her shoulder. She looked uncomfortable but was trying to smile. I raised my phone and started recording video through the crack. Davidson was showing her something on his phone, photos of jewelry, just like he'd done with Emma. The girl shifted away slightly, but he moved closer. These could be yours if you're willing to work for them. Private tutoring sessions, just you and me. My hands shook as I recorded. This was evidence of pattern behavior, exactly what we needed. I backed away quietly and hurried to the bathroom, where I immediately uploaded the video to multiple cloud services. That afternoon, Emma came home in tears. He knows something's wrong. He kept staring at me during class, and afterward, he told me I seemed distant. He wants to meet tomorrow during his free period to reconnect. You're not going, I said firmly. If I don't, he'll fail me. He already gave me a D on my last essay, and it was perfect. I worked on it for hours. I looked at the essay. She was right. It was excellent work. He'd marked it down for lacking depth and failure to grasp core concepts, complete fabrications designed to control her. That night, I made a decision. I called Jessica. We need more parents. If it's just us, they can dismiss us as hysterical. But if multiple families come forward, Mia mentioned that her friend Chloe said Davidson made her uncomfortable last year. Maybe her parents would talk to us? We spent the weekend carefully reaching out. 3 more families agreed to meet with us. 2 had daughters who'd received gifts and special attention from Davidson. 1 had already transferred her daughter to another school because of weird vibes from him. Monday morning, Emma woke up violently ill. The morning sickness was getting worse and the stress wasn't helping. I kept her home, which triggered another barrage of texts from Davidson's burner phone. Your absence is noted. This will affect your grade. Ignoring me is childish, Emma. I expected better from you. You have until end of day to respond, or I'll have to take formal action. The threats escalated throughout the day. By evening, he'd sent a formal email to my account, copying the principal, expressing concern about Emma's sudden behavioral changes and declining academic performance. He suggested a parent-teacher conference to discuss her troubling trajectory. I responded professionally, agreeing to a conference but insisting it include the principal and guidance counselor. Davidson immediately backtracked, saying he preferred to handle things privately first. Tuesday, Emma returned to school. I watched from my volunteer post as she walked to his classroom. Through the window, I saw him gesture for her to approach his desk while other students filed in. He leaned close, speaking quietly. Emma nodded mechanically and returned to her seat. The recording app later showed he'd told her, "Your mother's making things difficult. If she requests that conference with administration, I'll have to share some concerns about your behavior. The photos you sent me, for instance. The administration takes a dim view of students who pursue teachers. The victim blaming made me sick, but it also made me more determined. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. The school nurse called me. Mrs. Thompson? Emma collapsed in PE class. We've called an ambulance. I raced to the hospital, my heart pounding. Emma was conscious but pale, hooked up to IV fluids. The doctor explained she was dehydrated and showing signs of severe stress. They ran blood tests, which confirmed the pregnancy and showed concerning hormone levels. She needs to avoid stress, the doctor said. Whatever's going on, it's affecting her physical health. Emma squeezed my hand weakly. I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't pretend everything's okay. I can't sit in his class knowing. She touched her stomach lightly. That's when I knew we couldn't wait any longer. Davidson's psychological torture was literally making my daughter sick, but I also knew we needed one more piece of evidence, something undeniable that even his connections couldn't explain away. Emma, I said carefully, would you be willing to wear a wire? She looked at me with frightened eyes. What do you mean? Just a small recording device. If he says anything incriminating, he's too careful during school. He only says things when we're alone. Then we create that opportunity, but safely, with me nearby. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, but how? I'd been thinking about this. You'll ask to meet him at the coffee shop on Main Street. Public place, lots of witnesses. Tell him you need to talk about your grades, that you're worried about your future. I'll be at the next table. He won't like meeting in public. Then he'll suggest an alternative. Either way, we'll have him on recording making that suggestion. We went home that night with a plan. Emma texted Davidson from her regular phone, the one he didn't know I was monitoring. Can we talk? I'm really worried about my grades. Could we meet at the coffee shop after school tomorrow? His response was immediate. Coffee shops are too public. Come to my classroom after school. My mom is picking me up right after school. Coffee shop is the only time I can meet. There was a long pause. Then, fine, 4 p.m. Come alone. I had Jessica stationed in the coffee shop by 3:30, pretending to work on her laptop. I arrived at 3:45, sitting 2 tables away with my back to Emma's meeting spot. Emma walked in at exactly 4 p.m., wearing the small recording device I'd purchased online. Davidson arrived 5 minutes late, scanning the shop carefully before sitting down. I could hear their conversation through the earpiece connected to Emma's wire. This is highly inappropriate, Emma, he began. Meeting like this could be misunderstood. I'm just worried about my grades, Emma said, her voice shaky but determined. You said my last essay was terrible, but I worked really hard on it. Your work has been declining since you started pulling away from me. You know what you need to do to fix this. What do you mean? I heard him sigh impatiently. Don't play dumb, Emma. You were so eager before, so willing. Now you act like what we have is wrong. My mom says, your mother is poisoning your mind. What we have is special. Age doesn't matter when 2 souls connect. You said you understood that. I'm 13, Emma said quietly. Age is just a number. You're mature for your age. That's why I chose you. My hands clenched into fists. He'd just admitted to choosing her, to pursuing her. But the baby? Emma started. What baby? His voice turned sharp. Emma, what are you talking about? There was silence. I could hear Emma's rapid breathing through the wire. Answer me, Davidson demanded. What baby? I'm pregnant, Emma whispered. I heard a chair scrape. Through my peripheral vision, I saw Davidson lean across the table. You're lying, he hissed. You're trying to trap me. I'm not lying. The doctor confirmed it. Then you'll take care of it. I'll pay for it. No one needs to know. I already told my mom. Davidson's hand shot across the table, grabbing Emma's wrist. You did what? Let go, Emma said louder now. You're hurting me. Do you have any idea what you've done? My career? My family? Let go of her. I stood up, turning to face them. Davidson released Emma's wrist, his face cycling through shock, rage, and calculation. Red marks were already already forming on Emma's skin where he'd gripped her. "This is a setup," he said, standing. "You're trying to frame me." "Frame you for what?" I asked calmly. "For pursuing my 13-year-old daughter? For getting her pregnant? For threatening her grades if she didn't comply?" Other customers were staring now. Jessica had her phone out, recording everything. Davidson noticed and took a step back. "I'll have your daughter expelled," he said quietly. "I'll make sure she never gets into any decent school. I'll ruin both of you." "Try it," I said. "We have everything. The emails, the texts, the gifts, the recordings, everything." His face went pale. Without another word, he turned and left the coffee shop. Emma collapsed against me, sobbing. I held her tight while Jessica called the police. Not the local department, but the state police. We'd bypassed Davidson's brother entirely. That night, Emma's wrist had bruised into a clear handprint. I photographed it from every angle. The recording from the wire was crystal clear. Davidson admitting to choosing her, telling her age didn't matter, trying to pressure her into terminating the pregnancy, threatening us. But I knew this was far from over. Davidson had too much to lose. He would fight back with everything he had, and Emma was already paying the price, both physically and emotionally. The real battle was just beginning. The state police arrived within 30 minutes. Two detectives in unmarked cars pulled up outside the coffee shop, their approach professional and methodical. Detective Margaret Chen introduced herself while her partner, Theodore Marks, began taking statements from witnesses. I watched Davidson's face drain of color through the window as he sat in his car, frantically typing on his phone. Emma trembled beside me as Detective Chen examined her wrist, photographing the bruises from multiple angles. The detective's expression remained neutral, but I caught the tightening around her eyes. She'd seen this before. "We'll need you both to come to the station," Detective Chen said quietly. "We have a special interview room for cases like this." At the state police headquarters, Emma underwent a forensic interview with a trained specialist while I provided all our documented evidence. The encrypted folders, screenshots, recordings, everything. Detective Marks methodically cataloged each piece, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he created the official record. "This is extensive documentation," he said, looking up from the screen. "You've done excellent work preserving evidence." The interview lasted 4 hours. Emma emerged exhausted but somehow lighter, as if telling trained professionals had lifted a weight she'd been carrying. The specialist explained they had enough for an immediate arrest warrant. That night, Davidson was arrested at his home. Jessica texted me a photo someone had posted on the neighborhood Facebook page. Davidson being let out in handcuffs while his wife stood in the doorway, her face a mask of shock. The arrest happened at 9 p.m., ensuring maximum visibility to neighbors. The next morning, the school exploded with rumors. I kept Emma home while the investigation expanded. Detective Chen called to inform us that Davidson's work computer had been seized, along with his personal devices. They'd found deleted photos and messages to multiple students spanning 3 years. Sarah's parents called me that afternoon, their voices shaking. Their daughter had finally admitted Davidson had been grooming her, showing her jewelry and asking for special private sessions. 2 more families came forward by evening. The pattern was always the same. Compliments, gifts, requests for secrecy, gradual escalation. Davidson's brother, the police chief, attempted to intervene. He showed up at the state police headquarters demanding to see the case files, claiming jurisdiction. Detective Chen calmly informed him he'd been recused due to conflict of interest. When he persisted, threatening to make calls to people who matter, she had security escort him out. The school board held an emergency meeting. Davidson's wife sat silent in the back row while parents demanded answers. How had this gone unnoticed? Why hadn't the administration acted on concerns? The principal admitted several teachers had mentioned Davidson's overly friendly behavior with female students, but without concrete evidence. They dismissed it as his enthusiastic teaching style. Emma's condition worsened over the following days. The stress triggered severe morning sickness and cramping. Dr. Hugelschnatz monitored her closely, concerned about the pregnancy's viability given Emma's age and emotional state. I held Emma's hand through ultrasounds and blood draws, watching my daughter face consequences no 13-year-old should endure. The prosecutor, a woman named Margaret Sullivan who specialized in crimes against children, met with us to discuss the case. She explained the charges: sexual abuse of a minor, using position of authority for sexual exploitation, witness intimidation, and evidence tampering. The deleted messages and photos had been recovered, showing a clear pattern of predatory behavior. "He's looking at 15 to 20 years, she said, reviewing the evidence. The multiple victims and his attempt to destroy evidence work against him. Davidson's attorney tried negotiating a plea deal, claiming his client suffered from depression and poor judgment. The prosecutor refused. With Emma's recorded confession and the physical evidence of assault at the coffee shop, they had an airtight case. 3 weeks later, Emma miscarried. The cramping started during breakfast, and by lunch, we were at the hospital. She gripped my hand as the doctor confirmed what we both knew was happening. Emma sobbed, not from sadness, but from a complex mix of relief and guilt that I helped her understand was completely normal. "Your body knew what was best," Dr. Hugelschnatz explained gently. "This isn't uncommon in young pregnancies, especially under severe stress." The miscarriage became part of the criminal case, evidence of the physical trauma Davidson had inflicted. Emma struggled with the publicity of her most private pain becoming legal documentation, but she understood its importance. More victims emerged during the investigation. A former student, now in college, contacted the prosecutor after seeing Davidson's arrest online. She'd been too scared to report him 4 years ago when he'd cornered her after school and touched her inappropriately. Her testimony established a pattern going back to when Davidson first started teaching. Davidson's wife filed for divorce and moved in with her sister. She discovered a hidden folder on their shared home computer, containing hundreds of photos of female students, some clearly taken without their knowledge during class. She turned everything over to prosecutors, her disgust overcoming any lingering loyalty. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Emma began therapy with a specialist in trauma and adolescent abuse. The sessions were hard. Emma had to confront how thoroughly Davidson had manipulated her, how he'd weaponized her academic ambitions and need for approval. Some days she came home angry, other days in tears, but slowly she began to heal. I returned to work but took every Friday off for Emma's appointments and case meetings. My boss understood, having a daughter Emma's age herself. The school district placed Davidson on unpaid leave and began implementing new oversight policies, including mandatory reporting training and clear guidelines about teacher-student interactions. Jessica became our closest ally. She attended every court hearing, took notes, and helped coordinate with other families. When Emma felt too overwhelmed to face school, Mia would bring her assignments and sit with her, their friendship evolving